If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you, like where you from, where you at now, what you got going on.
Okay, so currently I live in Nashville. I just bought my own home in September, and I just got back from New York. I got my MBA in finance, and then I got my bachelor's in sport management.
Oh,
So originally from Tennessee. I went up to New York to kind of play sports. I'm a basketball track guy. I played at Adelphi, and then I came back home, and I'm currently an accountant. But it's not something that I would say I'm real passionate about. Like anything in sports accounting, that would be great, or even agency wise or anything like that. But that's what I've been trying to kind of find, is something that can kind of link the two with my sport management degree and my MBA.
oh, okay, dope. Yeah. Edward.
I guess now I'm a senior at LSU. I'm on the powerlifting team here, and I also live for Team USA. Before Corona, we can't travel anymore. I am a sports administration major here. Ideally in my head, I want to be an athletic director. So I'm just really interested in anything in sports, but I think anywhere falling under the umbrella of athletics, I'll be happy in. So I'm just trying to get a good idea on where to start. I intern for the LSU athletic department right now, and I get to see a lot of operations from like football ops, and I got to like follow on with our national championship and how they monetized all that and everything. But I'm really still confused, so I'm just happy to be here, listening to stories and hopefully picking up some tips.
Very cool. Very cool. Now it makes sense. And we'll jump in again. I'm Albert Hughes. I'm at I'll talk a little bit real quick. Just me, right? Like I work for the Grizzlies. My background is in web development. I'm over a team marketing technology. So we're over website, we're over apps, we're over integrations between the different departments. And so I got here. Someone just reached out to me, more so on my technical background, and it just happened to be with the Grizzlies. So I'm a basketball fan. So it made a lot of sense. And then I got there and then learned more about the business of basketball. And I'll break down the organization and we'll kind of talk some more. But let's go around, if you don't mind, like just talk about kind of your role, what you do, and then a little bit about how you got there.
I can start.
Yeah.
My name is Jenna Broyles. I am the live entertainment coordinator for the Memphis Hustle, which is our G League team, and then the backup producer for the Grizzlies. So kind of help run all of the entertainment, like when the game is not going on the court. So anthems, halftimes, promotions, trying to just promote the brand outside in the community as well. So all the fun outside of basketball.
Definitely. Tyler.
My name's Tyler. I'm on Albert's team. I'm a web developer. I'm one of the people who didn't actually go after sports. I just kind of ended up in it. I was always a huge sports fan, and I went to Purdue in Indiana. And I was lucky enough to find an opportunity and be able to join the team.
Andrew.
What's up? So my name's Andrew Keepy. So I'm completely opposite from everyone else on anything. So I work in sales. I've been doing this. This is going into my 5th season with the Grizzlies. When I went to college, my dream was not to work in sales at all. I thought that would be the dumbest thing in the world, to sell something. A lot of the things I wanted to do, I guess, starting college was be more on the marketing side, but I interned at a couple places and found a gift that I had, which was storytelling, which is something I've liked doing and communicating something bigger than what I am as a person, which became a very good tool to have in selling and being able to communicate what season tickets and what the Grizzlies have to offer for families and for businesses. So when I interned with it's now not here, but in South Haven, there used to be a minor league hockey team. I interned there for 2 years, went through and did their sales training program, and then got into selling to corporate sales. Throughout college, I did a lot of networking and built up a pretty good pipeline of I guess, decision makers in the sales world, one which helped me get my job with the Grizzlies. So moved over from the River Kings to the Grizzlies. I started in what's called our TSR program, which is Ticket Sales Representative. All it is a 12-month program to prove you can sell and prove you're good enough at selling. At the end of that, if you have an opportunity to get promoted, you get promoted, or there's help getting a job for another organization. I started off and I got promoted within 6 months into what's called our retention department, which is client services. So on the ticket sales floor, we've got 3 different sections that are primary on, we call the executive level. So you start off as a TSR, then you can build up to become an executive role. There's 3 main departments, which are new business sales. So you're strictly selling anything new, ticket seasons, groups, suites, anything from there. Then you've also got a primary sales in groups, which is just for churches or for larger organizations. And then my department, like stated, which is client services. So I work with 415 season ticket holders every day. My goal is to get them all to renew their season tickets at the end of the year. So going through and realizing who I was as a person with that storytelling, I learned how much I enjoyed building relationships with people, which is why I went to the client services role that I applied for and wanted to get. So my job every day is to work with people that are just like me that love sports. I have a great way to connect with people in Memphis, which is why I love being in Memphis working for the Grizzlies, because I can tell the story of why I fell in love with the team, because my dad and I grew up coming to games. We drove the 4 hours to come to Memphis, and that was like our bonding thing. If we didn't have the Grizzlies, I don't think we would have as good of a relationship as we have, because there's that thing we always have to talk about every time we get on the phone. So every day when I drive home from work, we talk 30 minutes every day, and it's always about the Grizzlies, even to this day. I'm 25, and this is still all we talk about is the Grizzlies. So being able to push that and sell that and be able to create those same bonds with fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, whatever else there, it's always a blessing to have that every day. So that's kind of a roundabout what I do. But like right now with what I work on every day, we're renewing season tickets even through the coronavirus. We're still asking people to renew, stay on board, stay with us. This is part of working in sales. You go through hard times, you go through easy times. But that's what it comes to with what my job is building those relationships to people feel comfortable investing in something that might or might not be there, especially with what we got going on now. But having that relationship and trust to spend money, even if there's a lot of question marks, because since I've been with the Grizzlies, we've had a lot of turnover with the team, a lot of bad teams, a lot of question marks on where ownership would be at. But I get the lucky job to be on the front line every day and take those questions and battle through those objections, and which is why I love what I do, because every day is a different thing. I never do the same thing every day. I thought whenever I first got into sales, it's just the same thing. I dial out, I call people, I talk to people about the Grizzlies, and it's the same thing over and over and over, which is not. Every day is a different conversation, a different battle. There's a different point in the season that we focus on different things, and it's a lot of fun. So I guess that's a roundabout, explanation of the sales side, since I'm the only one on the sales floor talking today, to kind of give an explanation there. So, but that's me. Like I said, my name's Andrew.
Appreciate that, Andrew.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey guys, I'm Jazz Hendrick. I'm a senior coordinator in the partnership activation department. So my role, we work with our new business developers on the corporate partners sales side of the organization. So we have people who are strictly just selling to new brands. So your Nikes, your Chick-fil-A's, your Gatorades and State Farms. And on the activation side, so my role, we really sit down with the developer and kind of go over what inventory we have or available to offer to these new brands that we're trying to bring on to our company. And we worked with Jenna's department and Al's department to kind of get some more cool concepts or spark new ideas if we have a partner or new business opportunity where they want to invest a lot of money. So there's a lot of collaboration with a bunch of our departments in our sales cycle and process when we're prospecting and reaching out to new partners, which is a really fun part of our job because you get to interact with so many people. But ultimately, with my role is once we secure a partner, everything that's contractually obligated to TV assets, to on-court assets, to in-game promotions or event appearances, my role is to make sure that is fulfilled, tracked properly, and then make sure the client is satisfied. So I'm the day-to-day contact. So once we sign that contract, I'm the day-to-day person who's working with that partner on a day-to-day basis. And then our developer can really just focus on finding that new prospect and that new side of the business that we haven't really nailed down yet. So it's a pretty fun role. Similar to Andrew, you get to do a little bit of storytelling when you're reporting different type of events and tracking different type of assets for the partners. But just to keep everything brief and short, it's you get to use a lot of different skill sets that each of us here who are talking today to you guys get to share a little bit of those skills with you as well.
Awesome. Alex, thanks for joining us. What you got? Right now, we're just going through talking about our roles. And then after you, I'm going to just go through kind of the departments and just kind of talk a little bit more from an organization level.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Like Edward said, I'm Alex. I just joined a little late. I was taking care of our live show at noon. We have Monday through Friday, making sure that was going. Anyways, again, my name is Alex. I am the digital content coordinator for the Grizzlies. So I manage all the content that we have going out through the web and the app, from videos, highlights, photo galleries, sometimes news articles, and content through like YouTube, Pinterest, app, web, and everywhere. So if it's on the internet, there's a good chance I help put it there. I also share everything between us as well as social media. So just a lot of digital content. And then here after working, so I've been with the Grizzlies for 2 years now. Before this, I was an intern with the Orlando Magic doing a digital content internship with them, which was more focused on email building and website design, which ironically for me, I had knowledge in HTML whenever I first got out there, so it was a big learning curve. But I got that internship from taking in college. I went to Northern Illinois University. I was a marketing major, and I was getting a certificate in digital marketing. And one of the classes I had talks got me really intrigued. First was all about Google AdSense and like Google Ads and doing digital marketing from like the monetary side. I was with my professor and had a big project I made, and when I was applying to all these different internships, I actually took that project and submitted it with all of my applications. And the Magic liked what they saw and then gave me a chance. And just kind of I went through the path and led to where I am here today. So I will let I'll take over.
Albert, you're on mute.
I know. I was like, yeah, can you see my screen? Cool.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of go through a little bit and just talk about more about the organization, kind of so you all also understand. At the Grizzlies, we actually have 5 brands that we promote, that we market. So not just the Memphis Grizzlies, but we also promote and market our arena, FedEx Forum. We have a G League affiliate, which is like our minor league basketball team, the Memphis Hustle. We have a in-house media company that we have called Grind City Media. And then we also have a esports 2K league franchise called Grizz Gaming. So NBA franchises have the ability to get participate in the 2K Sports League that I think started, this may be the 3rd season of its existence. And so with esports, you know, that's a huge thing going on right now, just in the world of sports. So the NBA kind of jumped in and put their hat in the ring with the 2K League. So mostly everybody here also does some type of work that assists the other brands. So not just Grizzlies games, but, you know, if there's G League season, if there's concerts happening at the arena, as the E League season, we all kind of go across the different brands as well. And then if you look at the different departments within the Grizzlies, and this could be mostly all franchises or sports, professional sports, like Andrew alluded to, you have the sales floor, which is focused on selling tickets, right? Working with our fans, getting them in traditional, getting them in the arena. And then even now with different opportunities, just finding ways to keep those fans engaged and locked in with the organization, even through times like this, where they may not be able to come into the arena. Again, sales is kind of broken down between group sales, your season tickets, you have premium, like the floor seats, the suites and things like that. And so that's the sales department. You also have broadcast communication. So another place within the organization is like the broadcast team, or the people that's responsible for getting everything together that you see when you watch a game on TV. Managing cameras, pointing people in the right direction so that you see certain things on the screen during certain times of the game. And that's a really interesting department that kind of gets forgot about, but they play a huge role, especially when watch games on TV. Of course, communications, just people who get that message out, whether it's a press release, whether it's scheduling players for interviews and coordinating them to where they need to go with the media. The communications department is a huge option or place in professional sports, both on the basketball side, dealing with players, as well as on our side, on the business operations side, so we can get messages out from an organization. So you kind of have basketball side of communications is getting players coordinated and connecting with the media. And then the kind of business side is coordinating that message that goes out about what we have going on. And then content. So another place is just people who create those videos, create those social posts, stuff that you see out there. Marketing, the marketing department is kind of broken up into different levels as well. My team is the marketing technology team. As I mentioned, we're over website, apps, all the things that for all the brands that we saw as well. So we also handle like if it's highlight videos, our podcast that we do with Grind City Media, if we're doing recaps of games that we want to put on the website, that's our team. Also in the marketing department is like our creative team. So people who do graphic design, people who create the cool posters that you see when you go to games and things of that nature. You also have people who send out emails, which is kind of like our email marketing. And then you have, of course, advertising, people who focus on things like Google ads and promoting ticket sales and different events that we have on billboards, on radio. And all that kind of falls under the marketing department. Also here, if you get to like under broadcast, I mentioned where Jenna is live entertainment. So you have those people during the games and during season who focus on, the actual production of the game. So the players are playing, but, when there's timeouts at halftime shows, pregame opportunities, all of that, from the Grizz girls to the mascot, all of that entertainment that happens outside of the court, it needs to be coordinated, it needs to be ran, it needs to be produced, and that's the live entertainment team. So a lot of work goes into actually making sure that stuff happens. The timeout happens, it's only so much time. You see people run out throwing t-shirts, and there are people who, full-time dedicated to making sure that stuff goes smoothly. And then you have stuff right here, we call it support. But this is actually some of those ancillary places. So even like you were saying, Leander, they like our accounting department, right? Like just like any other business, the accounting department here, now you're dealing with players, you're dealing with arena staff, you're dealing with the business staff, where you're still, and I like it because it's kind of, I think you can use any skill set and be part of sports, right? I think traditionally it's like, hey, you went to school for sports marketing, I have to be in ticket sales, or I have to be in marketing. But I think someone who enjoys sports, has a passion for sports, can be but also is into accounting or finance or something like that, can be very valuable to the organization. You get to be part of the team atmosphere. You get to feel that excitement of the sports, but you can also provide value in your field as well. And so that's HR, that's finance, that's IT. Different people, different departments that are supporting the organization. And then one big another big area or a pillar for the Memphis Grizzlies is our community department. The Memphis Grizzlies are dedicated to doing a lot of things in the community. We have a foundation. We have a charter school that we're behind called Grizzlies Prep. They have a mentoring program that's very good. We get to interact with students from the city, throughout the city at different middle schools. That's a really cool opportunity. And so, there's places for that where people who, if you're more dedicated to, wanting to serve the community or want to be in the nonprofit space, there's places in many sports organizations that can also support that. I think that's a big thing in the NBA as well. And a lot of leagues where teams are big pillars in the city to provide back to the community. So that's always an option. Another place is arena ops. So people who are like building and facilities operators, whether that's people who might be electrician or HVAC, but also people who coordinate events within arena. So we have someone who is solely responsible for booking events at the arena. Right now, of course, there's not many events in the arena, but there's still a lot of work to do, coordinating, rescheduling, just trying to rethink some of the ways that we do live entertainment. So there's a lot of opportunity there as well. And then basketball ops is what you typically hear about on ESPN when it comes to general managers, people who are, signing players and doing things like that. That happens on the basketball operations side of the organization. Still business, but it's that's where the two lines split: basketball operations and business operations. And so that's kind of a breakdown of the org and different places that you can work within the organization there. So just wanted to throw that and then see too if I missed anything or any thoughts of any good information about the organization, or to open up for questions for you two.
I have one thing that I wanted to mention. So
Sure.
internships, I felt like I was the queen of interns. Like I literally interned forever. I graduated from University of Florida. I interned while I was at school. Then I went and did like an intern year at Texas Tech. So it was like a year where I was full-time, but I was technically like an intern. Then I did a year at Vanderbilt as an intern, and then a year at the Grizzlies as an intern. And then I've gotten 2 full-time jobs like at Vanderbilt and at the Grizzlies because of my internship. So for me, like, even though I was like, 3 years out of college and, through my master's degree, I still took the jump to intern because I knew that it would set me up to be in the best position to get a job in the future. And if I didn't do all of these internships, I wouldn't be where I was today. So my biggest advice to people who are, just kind of getting started is don't be afraid to take that internship if that's what you can get, whether it be paid, fantastic, unpaid, whatever you can do to kind of just get yourself as integrated into, the community as you can. It is extremely, extremely helpful, and never be afraid of the title intern, because I hadn't done intern duties for those past 3 years. I ran sports on my own. I did all types of stuff, but it set me up to be where I am today. So that's one thing that I wanted to note, because we also have fantastic internships. I know you said you lived in Nashville. I worked at Vanderbilt and know that they do some great stuff there. Our interns have grown and gotten great jobs. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great point. That's a great point for sure. Definitely a great opportunity. I think that's always good, whether it's intern, whether it's, entry level job. The biggest thing is if you get in the door, it's about getting in and showing out. You know what I mean? Showing up, showing out, getting the opportunity to showcase your skills and then maximizing it. Like I said, Jenna, I've seen her, she was intern, now she's full-time. Like Alex said, he was in Orlando doing the internship. Oh, the Grizzlies reached out, then he got got there, had one job, then next thing you know, he moved to our team, and it just kind of all rolled in. So I always say that is title, it's up to you to choose your route. And a lot of times it's man, I'm gonna get in the door and then showcase who I am, right? A lot of times people can't see it. And so in different interns, volunteer opportunities, jumping in, it's who knows you? You want people to know who you are. You want to get experience how you can get it. So I think that's very important in that regard. So yeah, I didn't definitely open for different questions if you have any for sure.
Yeah, let me jump in here because I kind of have a question, I guess, for all of you, really. And not even sure, you guys would know if it's different for every department or whatnot. But do you know if the Grizzlies offer like shadowing programs where someone could come in, even see what, goes on for, a day or a week or whatever it may be, just to see what, you guys do on a day-to-day basis? If that's even offered with the Grizzlies or anything?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen where it's like, hey, this is our official shadow program, but I have seen examples of people doing that. Especially, I've seen people shadow like some of our people on Grind City Media or some of our journalists. I'm open for anybody to shadow and try to get a better idea of what we do on the technology team. I know, Jenna, you may have some insight kind of from live entertainment or some things you may have seen as well.
Yeah, so we've had a couple shadows, whether it be like a high school student that just comes in for a day and is interested in sports and kind of just wants to see what we do in a day. And also like on game days, like we've had a couple people who've asked to just kind of come in and observe. Sometimes we even do like a peer-to-peer shadow where like I may work for the Grizzlies and someone from the Suns wants to come to a game and see how we run it here. So there are opportunities to do that. I know one of my friends from college shadowed at the Magic, for example, for one day. She like reached out and asked to just come and shadow on a game day. And she went and interviewed for a job after she graduated and she got it. And I think a lot of it had to do with being there, meeting people, seeing how things ran. So just like, don't be afraid to reach out if there's something that you want to do and you want to shadow. And that's anywhere, you live in Nashville, there's plenty of teams like right there. I mean, the Preds do a great job. The Titans do a great job. There's plenty of colleges to go, Belmont, Vanderbilt, TSU. So like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask, because the worst thing that can happen is say they can't do it. But most people will be happy to allow you to come shadow for a day.
Have you seen some stuff like that on the sales side, Andrew?
Yeah, it's typically like case by case. We don't have a specific program, but anytime anybody asks or wants to, they always make accommodations in some type of way.
For sure.
I have a question. It's kind of a two-parter. I find it very difficult to find resource. I can't just Google, how to break into sports. It's not a very it's not like how to become a doctor where the steps are laid out for you. So my two questions are, what do y'all think, and I guess this is for everyone, what do y'all think the most important skills to have are? Because I'm not sure what skills I should be developing, understanding to understand economics and finance and all that, but outside of that, the actual critical skills. And the second question is, would it be some good ways for me to find resources to kind of get my foot in the door, outside of internships and all that?
Yeah, real quick, one of the big skill sets I think that, especially in sports, but I think in almost any business, is just that ambition, hustle and grind, right? Similar to what Jenna was saying, hey, I want to come shadow. Hey, how can I get an intern? How can I help bring value to you? The skill set to try to communicate to people that you want to, you're willing, and you're able to contribute and bring value. I think that's the one skill set that you have control over, right? Your want to, your will. And I think that translates a lot to get your foot in the door, right? So if everything's busy and I have, and they say, okay, apply for this, I have a job opening, everything, but trust me, when sports and the season is going on, it's it's a busy time, right? So I don't really have time, especially if I'm looking to hire somebody. It's going to be hard for me to go through every resume and figure out who's the best person. So usually whoever's going to stick out has who's reaching out the most, who's showing me the most that they want to work here, who's going the extra mile to write more on their resume, to say, hey, I've done this intern, who's jumped on calls like this to say, hey, I'm interested. That's the skill set to me that could separate you. That's one of the most valuable skill sets, because everything else you could kind of learn, right? If you was on my team and you didn't really know web development, but you came and said, hey, I just took 10 courses on LinkedIn about HTML and CSS. I just started, but man, I love to work with you. I would probably want you to work more than somebody say, hey, I've been working for this job. I like the Grizzlies. I want to work there, right? Because then to me, it's like, you just kind of floating through. But if somebody reached out and said, hey, man, I'm trying to learn. I want to do this. I want to get better. That's going to stick out to me as a skill set that I want on my team, right? Like I want that skill set more than somebody who's been doing it for 10 years and it's kind of just going through the motion, right? Because we can train you up to learn more about it. If you have that ambition, then it's going to be easier. In my head, I'm like, it's going to be easier to train you up because you already have some want to. And I think that's the one thing I would say that's probably the most important way to break through sports or really any industry that you really want to get into. I don't know if anybody else want to have some ideas too.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Just piggybacking off of what Albert's saying, like working in sports is essentially like you're playing a sport. It's such a really, a lot of people try to come out and want to join this industry, but there's so many limited positions for each team. There's only in the NBA, there's only like 30 basketball teams. So essentially, if for like Albert's role, there's only 30 of him, because there's only one guy for each team essentially. So you just got to be very competitive. And in your question specifically, what kind of tangible skills that you can define is project management, time management are very key, because like Albert kind of touched on in his response was once the season starts, you're going to be moving 100 miles per hour. And then also with being in sports, you have to be really in the know for any cultural events that are occurring, because you have to be dialed in and have a quick response and anything that's happening in the world. So you have to get used to be moving on your feet constantly in the same respect of also having planned projects that you already had on your plate. So just being able to multitask, time management, project management, just those are some tangible things that you can probably develop. And if you have a system or a plan to execute different projects in time and plan out your time, it's always good to show that in a interview or something like that. Like one advice I usually give to college students when they're interviewing is the 4-minute rule. And they're like, what's the 4-minute rule? Something that we use on our team on the partnership side. If we can complete a task in less than 4 minutes, we do that right now instead of putting it off to the end of the day. Because if you put away this 2-minute task or this 3-minute task or 4-minute task, at the end of the day, it adds up and you eventually won't be able to catch up to those work assignments. So we implemented like a 4-minute rule. If we can execute it right there and then under 4 minutes, then we just do it right there. But that's something example you could say in an interview that kind of when people ask you like, how do you manage your time or how do you prioritize different tasks? And that's usually a really good response that I tell people.
100%.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein, just being able to set yourself apart that isn't just like the required skills for your job. Everybody who's applying to your position can do the same things that you can do. You have to be able to sell yourself and say, why am I different? What can I offer that these other hundreds of people can? And I saw Albert mention this on LinkedIn yesterday in a comment, and it's like, it's not about what you do, it's about why you're doing it, and just being able to communicate that.
Another thing Albert kind of touched on is like who you know in the sports world is like everything. The sports world is so small, and then once you're in it, you realize like how many people know how many, like people all over, whether it be in college and NFL and NBA, like it is such a small niche. So like really making connections and like meaningful, lasting connections. So if you do go and shadow or if you do go and intern, you know, getting to know as many people like and actually just caring about them and what they do and taking the moment to say, hey, like, how's your day going? All those things like make it worth it. If you talk to someone, following up and saying, hey, thanks so much. Like you guys are already doing more than some people are doing. You reached out, you know, you are on this call, you're listening and you're learning from people who have been where you've been. And so that is what like really is going to set you apart, because it's like who you know is so much in sports, because it is just such a small world when it comes to that. So you guys are doing the right thing, but just try to keep fostering those relationships. I had like a mentor in college from when I was a student. Without her, I wouldn't have gotten my first job. Without that job, I wouldn't have gotten my Vanderbilt job. So it's just like everything falls into place with those connections that you make.
Yeah, I'll add because I went through and whenever I first started, trying to get into sports sales and trying to get into sports, kind of like where you guys are at too, like not many people do the same thing that you guys are doing now by just having the courage and the smarts to go ahead and get ahead of it. Go ahead and start meeting people, start learning who's in what roles and what these roles look like, because like Jenna said, it's important, who you know, but on top of that, it's very important who knows you. Yep. So if somebody can vouch for you, that goes a long way. So when I was starting my junior year at Memphis, what I did was every month I reached out to 3 people in the sports world, and I did in all different fields. And I reached out to 3, and every time I finished the conversation and started talking to them, I asked, who are 3 people you think I should reach out to? And then I started building this network. So I built it in my class schedule in my day. Every day at 11 o'clock, I scheduled a call with someone just to talk and just to be able to make those networking in. And one of which became my strongest mentor. And that's one thing you need to be finding now, which is very important, is that mentorship person that can help guide you through that and be that person that vouch for you. And, you'll find someone you're very comfortable with and you kind of aspire to be like. Don't feel awkward having follow-up calls, asking more questions, asking advice about what to do next, or even saying, I'm looking at this internship or this job. What are your opinions on this? Because they probably know someone that works there, or knows someone who knows someone that'll at least make a connection in. Because like on the sales floor, we hire our 8 TSRs every year. We get 400 to 500 applicants. We only take 8. It's very competitive on that. But what happens most of the time, at least half of those are people that are being vouched for. They get filled in. And on top of that, so my mentor, I got, his name was CJ Wider. I met him before I got in sports. He mentored me all the way through college, all the way through my start in sports. And ironically enough, he's now my boss. He came back, he works for the Grizzlies. He's now my director of ticket sales. And from that work I've done for the last 7 years, he knew day one that I'm a hard worker and I'm going to go above and beyond, which is now him being here has elevated my career even more, because I'm in management steps. I'm game day manager with the Memphis Grizzlies for the ticket sales. So that's that first step to get in the management, and then director, VP, those roles, which has really kind of catapulted me. But one thing CJ told me our first conversation, and he says that in every one-on-one we have, everything we do, in talking, especially now in the management role, is there's 5 steps or 5 important things you can do in managing. It all do with personalities and what you can actually control in life. But it comes out to be, it's that you can manage yourself, you can manage those around you, you can manage your product, you can manage up, and you can manage down. But the most important thing that you guys have right now, you can't control 4 of the 5 that are there because you're not in sports, right? But the one thing you can control is managing yourself. And that's something, if you can learn how to manage yourself now before you even get in that role, it gives you the ability to be able to manage yourself in any role that you ever get. You manage your time now, manage any type of duties that you have. You ultimately can be the hardest working person in the role that you get, which will stand out so much farther upon anyone else in any role, which will allow you to be able to grow substantially. So that's one of the biggest things. So when I say top of that, managing yourself, when it comes to interviews, you need to know who you are and what your brand is. So every day you're managing yourself, you're building a brand and who you are personally. My brand is selling basketball based off of relationships and being able to expand from there on relationship selling. That's who I am. That's what I focus on. If I have an opportunity to sell somebody and they're not willing to build a relationship with me, I'll never be able to sell them, because I know where I'm good at and I focus on being able to build upon that. So that's one thing that's really important, is finding out who you are. And when you have that question of, it's going to be asked in an interview, tell us about yourself. You need to be able to knock that one out of the park. That's your one moment to ultimately stand out. So that's kind of, my little bit of advice there.
That's awesome. Alex, you had something? It looked like maybe you had something you wanted to drop before Andrew.
Oh, no, I was just going to chime off on what Jenna said about getting those good connections, especially since everyone in the sports world knows each other. Like when I did my internship with the Magic, I think 6 of them went to different teams. And so now I have friends from the Spurs and Magic, even someone out at FSU that I can call up. and talk to, like, just network, as well as like get recommendations for people. There was even one girl who reached out about someone who is currently working for the Grizzlies and wanted me to give kind of a recommendation for her. So the more people that you know, but also who know you, can really help you down the line.
Sure. Help or hurt too. You know what I mean? That's why it's definitely like important, to give your best, put your best foot forward, and know, like Jenna was saying, like Alex said, it's a small network. And so, your name, your reputation, your work ethic, all that travels with you. And in the sports, it's even tighter, knit. So it's important to build, foster, maintain, and do your best for those relationships. For sure. What other questions y'all have while we're here, or what you're thinking?
I don't know. I have so many. I feel like it's getting into sports is so over, especially since I am so close to sports. Like, I live across the street from Tiger Stadium. Like, I literally wake up and see sports. So it always feels like so. And I go to class in the athletic operations building and all that, and I'm always nervous to talk to everyone in there because they're always so busy, just flying around with paperwork and all that. So I guess I just need to work on what I'm hearing from y'all is I just need to work on my interpersonal skills and getting better at kind of building relationships.
And also, LSU is a fantastic program, and you're in school there. So if you're aspiring to be an athletic director, I worked in college sports for a few years. So you should do, while you're in school, as many different internships or shadows with as many different departments as you can, because you also said you're not sure kind of what your niche is right now, because you can't just go from being where you are to being the athletic director. They all get there, in different paths. But you should try to do as much shadowing in, interning while you're in school there in the different departments, and find which one you really enjoy the most, and try to focus in on that. So when you graduate, that's the job that you want to kind of go after. So that is super helpful to be at a big SEC school, Power 5 school. It's a blessing to have all that around there, and just try to take advantage of that as much as you can, because I came from the SEC. I worked in the SEC, the Big 12. Knowing those types of programs, it helps a lot, and just being able to be exposed to as many different things. I worked communications for a week for softball for a tournament because they needed someone. I didn't really think I wanted to do communications, but I was I'll give it a try. I'll help. They need the help. And then I learned something that could help me in the future. My next job, I had to do a lot of things on Twitter, and I had to quote transcribe there. So it kind of played a role in there. So even if it's a one-off thing and they're hey, we need a one-time volunteer, just do as much as you can so you can figure out what it is that you enjoy most.
Yeah, Leander, you had anything?
Yeah, I did have some additional questions because my dog started going crazy. I just got a 3-month-old dog, and so he's going crazy with the crate training. But and he's going now. I'm sorry about that. But as far as finding out, I mean, I'm kind of expanding on what everybody's been talking about here recently. As far as finding out exactly what department that you want to be in, is there any advice you would give as far as knowing something is for you, or just doing something because you're good at it? For instance, right now I'm in accounting, and I like it. I think I would still like it at the sport level, but I've also had some interest in scouting and data analytics and different types of things, even esports. It's funny that you have brought up Grizz gaming, because I got a couple friends that I play esports also, and so I got a couple friends that play for Grizz gaming down there, and it's just funny that you kind of gave them a shout out. But even something like that is something I'm interested in. But like everybody said, the spots are so limited. How do you know when something is definitely for you? And I guess you all could kind of chime in on that.
I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is one way to find out is kind of what Jenna was saying, different shadowing opportunities, reaching out to different people, asking, hey, what does your day-to-day look like? Can I get a little bit more insight to kind of see what it is and see how it aligns? And then another one is just I think it comes down to like your passion, you know what I mean? Like truthfully, what makes you happy, you know what I mean? What like makes you feel good about waking up in the morning and going to do it. Like for me, like web development, like that's where I started. But what it really is like solving problems or creating solutions with technology. Like that's what I love doing. Period. Like that's in it. I would also say it evolves and it takes time to figure it out through experience, right? Like maybe when I was fresh out of college, what I thought was what I wanted to really be doing, it evolved over time. And then also like I had to learn, right? Like I think technology was the passion for me. And then like how exactly that fit into what I wanted to be over time, I just had to figure that out. So I'm a big person on like passion. You know what I mean? If I'm not excited about it, if this is not like what makes me happy, I'm probably not going to do it. Like, I get to the point where I'm doing something I'm not passionate, like maybe I evolve personally, maybe I want to continue growth and it's not giving me that. I'm looking for that. So my mind personally has been just trying to follow my passion, you know what I mean? Following what makes me happy. And then also trying to consistently grow and get better, right? So it's like through growth, following passion and growth, really like being driven by growth, but following passion, kind of, if I could turn it, that's kind of been the formula I've been looking at.
Yeah. And I guess advice for me, it just feels right. I mean, I loved high school. I wanted to be a teacher. Went to school for computer science. And after one semester, dropped computer science. Didn't have a major first semester. Started game development and animation. Dropped animation in my junior year of college. Picked up web development. 2 years later, I'm working as a web developer for the Grizzlies. You have no idea when it's going to change. But if it doesn't feel right, and if you're not happy with what you're doing, at the end of the day, if you're successful, you're not going to be happy in that role. So you got to try to find that great balance. But you'll know when you're in that role.
And one thing, this is for me, I was in a position where I was looking for someone, we were looking for somebody on our team, right? This is a recent, and Tyler was like, I think Tyler is the first person that I had to, like, I had to review interviews and find a person to hire, right? And what stuck out to me about that was, one, he had a background in esports as well, right? So I knew he had Grizz Gaming. I knew, he sent over projects that he'd done. He had an internship where he had done web development. So I was personally looking at, okay, this guy has a passion for esports. I know that's an area within the organization where there's some growth that we're looking to have. So I would love to bring somebody who's passionate about an area that we want to grow in. But I also see that he has a skill set in web development. So I was looking for someone that would be passionate about the work that we're doing. Like that's what I was looking for. That's what separated. There were some other people that there's another, I'm looking at my top 3 candidates or the people that we brought in the interview. There was a guy who's probably more experienced in web development. There's another person who maybe didn't have much experience, but the skill set that they shown may have been more. But the medium thing that even made me say this is like, I think this person would have more passion behind this role, you know what I mean? And that's what I picked. And so, I'm not speaking to Tyler, but I know like that's what drew me to it, and that's what I see throughout the work, right? So I think it's like really trusting your gut, trusting what makes you happy. That's it. I know I jumped in.
I'll chime in now. If you're more of a need to look at something type of thinker, a visual thinker, one of my professors back in college introduced us to a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And inside that book, they had this concept called the hedgehog concept. And itself, will ask you like 3 questions. What are you deeply passionate about, which Albert was kind of hitting on? What you can be best in the world at, like what skill sets really separates you from other people, and then what drives you economically, like what is your motivator. Some people love making money, some people just want happiness, and then some people are strictly like they just want to service others. So it's answering those 3 questions and then figuring out what that those core things, and that can kind of help give you a direction of what field you want to go into. Because sometimes you might be passionate about something, but the skills for it that you have might not be marketable where you can make money off of it. So it might just be versus a full-time gig. So it's just having that type of Venn diagrams or circle plots or whatever, however you want to plot it on a piece of paper. Just write it out and just figure out what you're passionate about, what drives you, and then what skill sets that you have that you can sell to other companies. Can be 3 questions that you ask yourself to kind of help navigate your career path and what direction you want to go to before it gets too late.
And then one other thing is when you're in an organization and you're working with an organization, if you're passionate about more than one thing, just because you're in one job title doesn't mean that you might not get exposed to the other thing that you love doing. Like, I love being in the community as well. Like, I love working in the community. I love working with the kids. I love getting out there and, like, you know, volunteering at a food bank, doing whatever I can do. And just because that's not my department, I'm not in the community department, they're often looking for, like, hey, who can come help with this at the Salvation Army? Or if our, you know, the hustle players are doing like a 10 days to tip off, which is like a sponsored thing that I work on with Jazz, we could book it so that we're going to go to the food pantry with the guys as part of like our promotional thing. So I still get to be out in the community. I still get to do those things that I'm passionate about. And I also get to do, you know, game presentation and write scripts. And again, storytelling, like a lot of us get to do. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. So kind of like once you're in an organization, if you're in a certain role and you might be interested in another part of the organization, there's not to say that you can't, you know, volunteer and help out or be involved in some way. Like, all of us in this group are so like interchanged, like, or intermingled at some way. Like, I work with Albert and Alex, and I will work a lot with Tyler with requests that I need for the website or something that we might need for the app that we want to like develop. And Andrew, you know, if he's, you know, getting new clients, like his department with groups, I work a lot with that, or what they sell, like they're going to sell an anthem versus me booking an anthem. And Jazz, like me and Jazz talk, you know, at least once a week on ideas for partners or how we can fulfill their needs. So like, I'm not solely doing, you know, game presentation. I get to kind of dabble in so many different things. So even if your like heart is set or torn on what you want to do, it doesn't mean like getting one job means that you don't ever get to be involved on another end.
For sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned too, Leander, about like data analytics and that. And for especially like the Grizzlies and now every NBA team, on data analytics, it's not even just for players. We do that on the business side as well, which is the largest growing department with the Grizzlies, and besides broadcast on that side. But almost every NBA team, that's their largest growing department, because up until about 10 years ago, no one really had data like that in the NBA. It was just you're a fan or you're not a fan, and we didn't really care to understand what makes a fan. But like when I first started with the Grizzlies, and this is just a short time, we only had one person on our floor that worked in data analytics. We're now up to 3. So we're literally hiring someone new almost every other year at minimum. So it's growing very quickly in that. And larger teams, especially like if you're in a conglomerate like Monumental Sports in DC, you know, they've got 10, 15 teams all together in one. And they're all going to be used in that same way. So you have all those opportunities there. But you know, if I'm in your position, I would probably be looking at something like that potentially. And one of the great things about sport and working in it is you can grow pretty quickly in your career, and especially in title wise, because like I'm already in managerial roles. I'm, you know, 25, and I think everyone else here is pretty close to the same age, and we're all, you know, growing very quickly in our career. That's what's insane. So like talking about my mentor, CJ, he had his first vice president role at 32, which is huge.
Yeah.
32 years old, you're a VP, and he was VP of the Aspire group, which is Aspire. They manage large collegiate ticketing sell side. So he had 28 properties he was over. It's all the East Coast. So anywhere from Auburn University to Rutgers. So that's one of the really cool things with sports as well is, you know, once you get in, it's very easy to climb that ladder versus a lot of corporate places. It's really hard to.
Real quick, because you touched on something, Andrew, I wanted to share as well is some of those ways to work with sports franchises and within the sports realm, but maybe not for a professional organization, like a company like Aspire, IMG that does a lot of stuff for a lot of the colleges, a lot of big organizations that may also rely on partnerships with sporting franchises, like working. I know there's a guy at St. Jude's, St. Jude, where he's working with the sports marketing side, or big companies that from like Coca-Cola or anybody who's major sponsors, they may have someone in that organization on that side as kind of the liaison to the sports franchises. So as you're looking for different roles or looking for opportunities within sports, there's also there's also other organizations that would allow you to tie in and work with sports, but not directly for a franchise per se. Cool. I know we're running on. We got about a minute left, and I know everybody's time's tight. It's Friday, so wanted to kind of give an open. If y'all had any more questions, or if anybody had any last kind of insight or words of encouragement that we wanted to do it.
I guess I'm not that shy or anything like that. I'll kind of close with just letting everybody know how passionate I am about getting into sports. I've kind of had my internships and part-time jobs in sports, and that's what let me know that I got to get there somehow. And you guys have all been very inspiring with your stories on how you guys got there. So I know I'm gonna get there. Like I'm one of those people that kind of speaks it into the air. And you guys have all been great with your insight, and I'm gonna keep pushing on through this virus and keep going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for talking. I have a much better idea of kind of the road I need to take now as far as building relationships. And I see it's not just about me making like a 4.0 or anything like that. Like I need to just kind of go in and shadow and be a little bit more hands-on. So I can kind of see like in my head now the things I'm going to do when I hang up with y'all. And, so I appreciate it a lot. So I'll see y'all around, hopefully, in that little tight-knit community of sports.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. Yeah, man, I appreciate y'all for jumping on. For me, definitely feel free to reach out, stay connected. We all connected on LinkedIn. Reach out, connect with the people on here. I'll send y'all a little list of the names. I'm pretty sure they're open to connect on LinkedIn, ask some additional questions, build those relationships. And so, yeah, I appreciate everybody else who's on too and took the time to share this knowledge as well.
Thanks, y'all. Good luck. I know you got it.
Looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good luck, guys. This is the first step in the right direction. So
cool. Okay, that's it. That's everybody. All right, cool. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good weekend. And keep pushing.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. See you guys.